Okay. Hello, everybody. Welcome to another edition of Maryland's Cafe Society radio show. It's actually the anniversary edition of the show. 13 years we've been doing Maryland's Cafe Society, and of course, due to circumstances beyond our control, and I believe this is also a blessing, we are now doing this via video. So, welcome to the show again. Today is Saturday, April the 7th. It is the 97th day of 2018. And of course, we have just 75 days till summer. Although it doesn't feel like we're anywhere near summer yet because, I went out earlier this morning and I've been fighting it. And I told some of my friends earlier in the week I will not be pulling out the heavy coat anymore. But needless to say, this morning I had to do so. So what I'm trying to do here is get the song going, the theme song going, and I had it all queued up and I lost it. Now, I know some of you were expecting me to be on live, on YouTube Live, but I'm not sure what happened, but we weren't able to do that. So this video will be posted a little bit later than you're normally used to receiving it. So again, um, we're still working things out, but I'm excited to be here, and I hope that you are just as excited as I am. And so I'll just get this going, and you can hear it at least. And then we'll continue on with the show once I get this song queued up and going. And as always, when you try to do something live, all kind of things go wrong. I'm not sure what's going on with it. But I guess once it's ready, it'll queue up and it'll start. In the mean between time, let's look at some today in history, on this day in history. This is interesting, especially since we're doing this via the internet and online. In 1969, the internet was born. How about that? And of course, it was all due to the Advanced Research Projects Agency, which tapped the BBN Technologies Group to build what it was then the precursor to today's World Wide Web. Amazing, right? So we've come a long way since 1969. And I know, I told you guys, just like in 1969, this internet thing was in the works, but everyday people did not have access to it. There's something out there right now that government and others have access to that we don't. So I just can't wait to find out what it is. But that's in this day in history. Now, there's a lot of news that has happened since we've last been together. Of course, the Holy Weekend was last weekend, and so we did not present a show to you guys. But I hope you guys had a happy Easter, by the way. Happy Resurrection Sunday, as Christians call it. I pretty much chilled. My siblings kind of did their own thing. We all did our own thing this go round, this year without our mom. Our dad had some other things going on, so we weren't able to connect with him. So I chilled on Sunday. I didn't do the typical ham and sweet potato pie and all of that my mom would do on Easter's, although I was craving some sweet potato pie. So much so that I did go to the store to shop for all the ingredients so that I could try to make my own sweet potato pie, which isn't bad, by the way. But as I was in the produce section, I stopped by Walmart's, by the way. As I was in the produce section, I walked past that table that has the Patty LaBelle sweet potato pies. And so I guess you can pretty much figure out what happened from there. I decided not to do my own sweet potato pie and I went with Patty's. And it was good. Yeah, it was good. All right. But anyway, back to Easter. And last weekend, I chilled. I tuned into some of the NCAA games. The Final Four games were happening. Loyola lost, sadly, to Michigan. Of course, Kansas lost to Villanova. And the WNBA was playing, the NBA was playing. So I had a Sunday full of basketball, Italian beef sandwiches, and one of my favorite uh, beverages. Then on Monday, Villanova won. We know they went home with the championship. The score was 79-62. Villanova versus Michigan, by the way. All right, and then we found out that Winnie Mandela passed away. Now, she was all of 81 years old, known as the mother of the nation. She was married to Nelson Mandela for 38 years, and of those 38 years, 27 of those, he was in prison. She stayed by his side, worked along with him in the anti apartheid movement, and of course, they remained close friends even after they divorced in 1996, and she continued on with the work. A family spokesperson of Winnie Mandela's released a statement on Monday announcing to the world that she passed away and that she was surrounded by her family and friends after succumbing to a long term illness. On Tuesday, we got the devastating news about that shooting at the YouTube headquarters. On Wednesday, um, we of course was um, updated um, on the shooting and learned that the shooter was Nazim Agdam. On Wednesday, we learned that Costa Rica elected their first black female vice president. Her name is Epsy Campbell Barr. And again, she's the first black woman to hold the office of vice president in all the Americas. Isn't that wonderful? Now, I did a little research and I found out that by profession, she's an economist, but she's has been active most of her adult life. She led the Center for Women of African Descent, the Alliance of Leaders of African Descent in Latin America and the Caribbean, and she also led the Black Parliament of the Americas. So it sounds like Costa Rica has an excellent person in a second position of leadership there. So congratulations to her. And of course, I can't wait to find out even more about her now. You can go to my Facebook page, Maryland's Cafe Society on Facebook, and hit that link that will take you to the story on her and learn some more about her. On Wednesday, we also saw in the news and on social media that allegiance of leaders, world leaders, national leaders, in areas of human rights, civil rights, and politics converged in Memphis, Tennessee to honor and commemorate the 50th anniversary of the death of Martin Luther King Jr. And there was all kind of things going on. Again, you can find me on Twitter at Maryland's Cafe Soch and see some of the retweets and information that I put out about, all of the different speakers and events that was happening surrounding this 50th anniversary. It's a big deal. But the big challenge that a lot of the current leadership and those who was there during that time and are still with us today, they're challenging us all to keep that legacy that Dr. King started alive. We must do that. All right. On Thursday, the Chicago Tribune updated us on the story of the YouTube headquarters shooting. And we just learned that this Nassim Akdam, who shot herself and wounded three others, had been reported missing by her parents. And her parents had even talked to the local police authorities to let them know that they were a bit concerned about her mental condition, her mental state. And lo and behold, just hours before she hit the YouTube headquarters to do the shooting, The police found her sleeping in her car. The Mountain View, California police found her sleeping in her car. And she, of course, told them that the reason she wasn't home was because of family problems that they were having. And, you know, everybody went on their separate ways. Only she headed to the YouTube headquarters to do what we now know she did. That was, of course, shoot and wound three people and then take the gun to herself. And this all stemmed from her being enraged about her YouTube account. She apparently had become quite famous and was making a living doing YouTube videos. And something happened with her account. YouTube somehow blocked her from being able to, I guess, make more money. I'm not sure of all of those details, but she became enraged and decided to actually show up there and make a ruckus. And then, of course, things turned deadly. All right, and then in business news, it looks like Facebook is still in the news, all over the news, as a matter of fact. I'm still trying to figure out why my song is not playing. What is really going on here? Okay, let's do this. Sorry about that, people. This is just bugging me right now. Let me see if I can figure this out really, really quick. Um, let's see. It is. Okay, I think this is it. So let's see. We'll just let that play in the background just a little bit. I miss that song, don't you? All right. So in business news, yeah, Facebook is still in the news. They recently reported that tens of millions more of their users might have been exposed to the Cambridge Analytics privacy scandal. Now, of course, it's all in the apps, people. Those apps that we are invited to download to our computers, some of them through Facebook, in this case, through, all of them through Facebook. So what they're doing now, Facebook, they are now restricting access that those apps can get from their users, and they are also removing the option to search for someone by entering the person's phone number and email. And of course, that's because they have now learned or have become aware of the fact that there's some malicious people out there, some ill-willed people out there who abuse Facebook by collecting users' profile data and other information via their phone and email. So they're tightening up the ship there at Facebook. The big question is, how will this continue to affect them? Now, we know that there's a minuscule number of people who have closed their accounts, shut down their accounts, and have sworn Facebook off. But we'll continue to watch and see if there's of people who will be doing that. All right, and then of course Budweiser and Jim Beam Bourbon are teaming up, and this is all inspired by this in bars called the beer and bourbon shots. Have you heard of that? I haven't, but anyway, yeah, they are teaming up and they're going to create a new beer that's going to be launched in the fall. I believe September is the exact date, and it's going to be a limited edition beer called Budweiser Reserve Copper Lager. Now, the beer will be brewed with 2-row barley and will be aged on Jim Beam bourbon barrel staves to create a toasted oak aroma and nutty taste. Oh, doesn't that sound good? Now, the two brands will start their marketing tour before then. They'll be going to bars and retail venues together to promote the new beer. And boy, this sounds interesting. Now, of course, Budweiser is owned by the Anheuser-Busch InBev company. So that's something for beer drinkers to be looking forward to. And speaking of beer, Stella Artois recalled 6, 12, and 24 packs of its fine brew earlier this week due to reports that some people were finding glass in their bottles. So, in case you haven't heard that, yeah, be aware of that. And I guess they'll, be updating you. And you can go to their website for more information. Actually, you can go to Maryland's Cafe Social on Twitter and get some updates there as well. Now, all this talk about beer brings us to cafe talk. That's right. It's National Beer Day. And the Cafe Talk, it's already posted on Maryland's Cafe Society on Facebook. It's on my personal Facebook. It's also on Twitter. And it is, what is your favorite beer? What's your favorite beer? All right, and so we'll give folks some time. I got it posted, so we'll get to that in a bit. And while we're waiting to make sure folks have adequate time to post, I do want to just give you a little bit of entertainment news. Did I call someone? Oh, goodness. Okay, I think I'm good. Okay. So what did I say? Um, Entertainment news. Did you hear about this? There's going to be another film adaptation of Native Son. Now, you know, Native Son is that book that was written by um, Richard Wright. It's a classic from the 1940s, and it's a sad, sad um, story about a young man who's raised on the south side of Chicago, and he does some horrible thing. Uh, um, uh, Boy, what word am I trying to say here? He commits some horrible crimes, and of course, the story is told through his eyes, the native son story. Now, there have been some other adaptations that have taken place on this book, and they really haven't been, blockbusters. Orson Welles apparently directed an acclaimed Broadway production. Um, 1941, 1942. Then there was the 1951 movie that Richard Wright himself played in the role of Bigger Thomas, which is the main character of Native Son. The movie apparently flopped. It wasn't so good. And then there was even another attempt in 1986, independent film shot in Chicago. Oprah Winfrey was a part of that production. She played Bigger Thomas's mother, and it didn't go so well. So then there have been some theatrical productions, some plays around the Chicago area, and I'm certain around the country that have tried to pull off this story on stage. But what do you think? What do you think about them attempting? And these are Chicagoans, by the way, because the setting and the book Native Son is based in Chicago. There are some Chicagoans who have pulled together. They have a commitment from the production house that's behind the film Moonlight, as well as Lady Bird, on this new film adaptation of Native Son. And let me just tell you who they are real quick. Bigger Thomas is going to be played by Ashton Sanders of Moonlight. He attended DePaul University, so there's another Chicago connection. The director of this film, soon to be filmed, will be Rashid Johnson, and he was born and raised in Evanston. And then there's going to be Suzanne Laurie Parks involved. She's another DePaul theater alum. And yeah, so those individuals are going to pull this film adaptation, another film adaptation of Native Son off. And it's just going to be interesting to see what perspective they're going to tell the story, especially now that we're in the new millennium. You know, it's 2018. There is so much going on in the world, period, as particularly here in the United States. When you think about the premise of the story, Native Son, um, and then, of course, his treatment of women, this character, Bigger Thomas. What about the women in his life? Are we going to get to see more of them? Now, we know back in 1986 we met his mother through the character that Oprah Winfrey played, but will we get to see some of the other women in his life? Will they delve more into him eternally? What's going on in his head? It's just going to be interesting to learn how they approach the film and to actually see it and see how things kind of turned out with it. I think what makes it so difficult, or what will make it difficult to tell the story differently from some of the previous attempts, is the fact that it told from his perspective and how he viewed Chicago. And, and again, we've made some strides. It's 2018. It's a different world from the Bigger Thomas world back then, and a different Chicago. But then there are some issues that come up in the book that we're still dealing with in 2018. So I can't wait to see how they approach the film, and then, of course, to actually see it. All right, and then we have our passion for fashion. It is back, everybody, and it's short and sweet. I think we kind of touched on it back in the fall. Some of the anticipated trends that some of the fashion designers were expecting for spring summer 2018, and lo and behold, here we are in spring 2018, and summer right around the corner. So it's all about floral dresses and vibrant prints. Pay attention as you're in the stores and everything, you'll see that. Also, being pretty in pink does not hurt at all. Now, of course, we know that this thing is a carryover from um, last spring and summer, but how to make it fit in with what's happening in 2018 for spring and summer, just add some shades of purple with your pink. Yeah, do some color blocking with that, and make it work. All right, oversized pieces were prominent during New York's Fashion Week. The bigger blazers and jackets, the oversized baggy pants, um, also the two-piece uh, outfits, not necessarily suits, but the two-piece pant or skirt suits. Skirts were long and short, were pretty hot during New York's Fashion Week as well. So those are some things that you can look forward to in fashion for spring and summer. And of course, ways to kind of carry over some of the pieces that you may had from last spring and summer into this spring and summer. Okay, all right, and then let's see. Back to Cafe Talk. So let's go to Facebook and Twitter real quick and see if we got any responses from our Cafe Talk question, which is because it is National Beer Day, what is your favorite beer? Let's go and see what we have here. I have to say root beer. Root beer is my favorite beer. And let's check this out. Um, oh, lots of good mornings, good mornings. Budweiser, Stella Artois. Yes, 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 yes. Now, as it relates to the alcohol beer, you know, root beer is one of my favorites, but the alcohol beer, I am not at all a beer drinker. However, About a year or so ago, I was at a family function or at some event or something, and someone convinced me to try the Stella Artois, and they just said that was not it didn't taste like a typical beer that I thought it would taste like. And they suggested that I pair it with a beef, any kind of beef, a hamburger, a beef taco, whatever, and it would really bring the flavor out. And so I did. I did just that, and they were right. So Stella is not bad. All right, that's what we have on Facebook. Budweiser and Stella Artois. Let me go to another one and see if we have any other posts or comments on the cafe talk. And then, of course, throughout the rest of the day, I'll be checking in on the social media just to um, figure out or see if there were any others who have chimed in or commented. Now, uh, once we figure out the live thing, I'll definitely you'll definitely be able to, like, interact right then and there with the live. All right, let's see. And another person said that basically any beer, as long as it's local. All right, whatever. Okay, so that's our cafe talk. Let's see, what else do we have to do before our time is up? I shared in a press release earlier in the week that I would be talking about what happens with me on the radio because as I move throughout the community, folks are stopping me, asking me, why haven't I heard you on the radio? What happened to your show? What happened? And so I think I kind of addressed it a little bit a couple of months ago, but I'm no longer on WJOL Saturdays. I was told that the station was going a different direction for their weekend shows. And I was offered an opportunity to stay on the air, but it had some requirements that I unfortunately did not meet to be able to make that happen. And there's a whole lot of reasons why I was not able to make that happen. And I kind of, feel a certain kind of way about being put in that position to begin with. But let me just say this. Um, Talk radio is male dominated. It's a male dominated format in radio. And it is for the most part, white male dominated. And for anyone who knows anything about talk radio, it's mostly conservative right wing talk. All right, so having said that, I'm going to leave it right there. And I'll pick up next Saturday with the rest of where I'm going. But I do want to thank everyone who has supported the radio show. Thank you so much for your support and for staying in there with me and for your words of encouragement. Remember to look for me on Twitter, Marilyn's Cafe Social, on Facebook, Marilyn's Cafe Society. Visit the YouTube, Maryland's Cafe Society, and of course the website, Maryland's Cafe Society. I gotta tell you what love is, and I don't have it here in front of me, so I'll just tell you love is Maryland's Cafe Society, everybody. As always, it's been a pleasure, a privilege. We'll do it all over again next Saturday right here on Maryland's Cafe Society on YouTube, hopefully live. All right? All right. Peace. Have a great rest of the week.